2 weeks ago, I was on holiday with my wife, and in the morning, she asked me to buy some girl stuff. So I had to find a shop. There was no shop very close to us. I entered the shop, and because it was a non-English and non-German speaking country, I didn't know how to ask for it. There was no shelves where I could get it from, so I tried to ask to get some. You'll see that we all had these kind of issues where we weren't able to communicate what we want to say and to make it easy for us to be understandable. Hello, I'm Alex, and with my colleague Adelina, we'll show you how technology can slow down our communication.
Okay, so by raising hands, how many of you do you guys remember or have played the telephone game in the past, in your childhood probably? Okay, so there is a good amount of you that remember that. So for the rest of you that do not remember, how the telephone game was played is, it was a leader who used to pass on a message to a circle of people, and each of the persons used to repeat the same message to the person next to them, whispering into their ears. So let's say I would pass along to Alex, I loved Samir's presentation, and he will just pass it along to all of you guys in here, and probably the final result would be far from what we have said in the very beginning, and it would be something funny and most probably embarrassing. So the reason why that happens is because the human factors interferes to the communication we want to pass. So each of the persons sitting in that circle is going to pass along a message that is going to be filtered by their own personality, their own experience, their years of playing this game, or if they want to cheat or not, or they want to have a really funny result in the end. So this applies to our daily routine and to the way we can work today, and we can have meetings. So what we all do is delivering end-to-end solutions to our customers. This obviously is a productive work, and besides all the hard skills, besides all the professional experience we have, we do need some soft skills to collaborate and better communicate, and making sure that the message we want to pass on is as efficient as it should be. So this is our cross-functional and multifunctional, multicultural world. So we are all very different. We all have a very different experience. And as I was saying in the very beginning, passing along the message is going to be something very personal. You probably guys are very familiar with this because we obviously work in very different countries, and we have a very different culture and very different backgrounds.
Okay, so this is how communication looks like. Ideally, there will be a perfect delivery of the message. Exactly the same message will come from the sender to the receiver. But there are signal jammers, because we are professionals, we have various roles in our projects, and there's also a lot of communication barriers that make the delivery of the message to happen at a lower capacity. On top of that, we as professionals, we need some communication skills to deliver, to talk with our colleagues, to get our job done. And this happens in our projects because it's impossible for one or two persons to deliver the project. So we need to have, from front-end developers to business consultants to operations to support, to testing, and a lot of other roles that are needed for the job. So, as we said, this is a more complex image of the previous one, and the issues pop up in two specific places. One is the channel, which you are using for delivery of the message, and the second one is the place where the message gets encoded and decoded, which is on the either side of the delivery. For the channel, we do use a lot of technologies to make our job more easier. There's Slack, there are web conference tools. There's also the classic phone, which we all have, or there's Jira, there's Confluence. All these are channels which we use on a daily basis. For the other part, for the, I think I have a, also, so the encode and decoding part is different because we all come from different cultures. We might not speak the same language. We definitely don't speak the same language natively, so we have differences. There's also the roles. Trying to understand the PM from a front-end developer might be hard because also the PM gets in touch with the client and so on. So all these things make the message not to be delivered correctly to the receiver. Here is, let's say, not the standard Netcentric way of structuring a product, but you can find a lot of roles we have in our company. And between all these roles, there are issues to make it happen. By issues, I mean there's a message that is not being sent correctly from client to support or from client to testing. For example, error handling as a keyword coming from client might be read as exception handling for the developer. It looks similar, it sounds similar, and the tester might understand it completely different. This thing happens because we also have our years of experience, which is different, and we also have our professional knowledge different. Another part that makes us to understand things differently is the tools we are using. As also Samir said in the previous presentation, Adobe provides us with a lot of tools that you use, from Target to Experience Manager to Campaign and so on. Those tools are different. Each of them requires some specific skills that we might have or we might not have. Yeah, the last part of what makes us different is based on some not so hard skills. So it's our experience. We have years of experience in using some tools, but we might not have that experience in the new tools. There's cultural difference, working style. We might try to get things done in the just before the deadline, or we as a project team, we might like to work on the project right away. And also the soft skills. For example, we might be introverts or we might be extroverts. We might communicate more clearly than the others. All these are communication barriers that, along with the technology channels we are using, make it harder or easier to get our job done. So let's go back a bit to our technologies. We've made two groups of them. Some of are called offline, which are things like email, messaging when you leave a message offline, Jira or Wiki. And the other one will be a real-time channels. How many times have you sent an email or waited for a sign-off of a documentation to get your next task done? Can you raise your hand? So it happened, right? Okay. Perfect. That slows down communication. That thing, because you need to wait for the sign-off, you have to wait another day, and it makes the project be delayed for another short period. Going back to real time, we have Slack, Starleaf, messaging, or video calls, which are cool, are very good. Video calls is the channel that is very, very close to the in-person talks. But the problem with the technology is that it cannot be the same as meetings. We might have no audio, or the internet can be a problem because it can drop. Those kind of things makes our communication again slow down and gets the project delivery a little slower.
Okay, so in order to blur the lines in communicating what we want to communicate in a meeting, we have face-to-face meetings or try to make it more efficient. And by the end of those meetings, what we expect is everything to be clear and all the differences we had to be cleared out. But more often than not, that doesn't happen. And we run across this joke the other day, which I think explains very well the presentation we had. So probably you guys have...
Let's wait for the audience to read it, or you can read it.
Okay, so if you guys haven't read it, is a Roman walks into a bar and asks for a Martinus. The bartender asks, "Do you mean a martini?" The Roman replies, "If I wanted a double, I asked for it." So I think, at least personally to me, this happened multiple times, not only at Netcentric, but we might spend lots of hours in meetings trying to explain to our colleagues what we want to get or what we need from them. And after, let's say, 30 minutes, we realize that we've been spending 30 minutes talking about the same thing, even if the discussion might get heated up or we may have lots of differences and get into different problems that we didn't have before. So by raising fingers, and not the middle finger, please. How many of you did said into a meeting, what did she say or what did she want? Okay, Alex, because you seem to not understand your colleagues. Okay, so if you guys don't mind raising your hands again and showing your fingers, and Alex can make an average out of it so we can see how many times this happens into a meeting. So, Alex?
Can you count, make an average?
Can you count? No, count.
Yeah.
6.
Okay.
Yeah,
just have a look. Yeah.
We want an average. No, how many fingers on average?
How many?
Okay.
7, okay.
I thought you would be better than me at math.
We're close.
Yeah, so you said 7. I think it was more like 5. We estimated 3.5 times that would happen in a meeting. And it's not necessarily the language or maybe somebody expressed themselves wrongly, but it's just we don't understand what we mean because obviously we work with different technology. And as my colleague Alex was pointing out earlier, we work with analytics, we work with AM, we work with audience manager, which somehow can make us work only into our own circle or think into our own circle. And if we use the same word, it might mean something very differently for even a back-end developer and a QA person. So as we were mentioning in the beginning, we work in cross-functional teams. We work with people coming from very different backgrounds and very different experience. So the idea would be to blur these lines and try to understand each other much better and make ourselves much clearer than we used to. And it's not only a matter of communication or expressing ourselves. It's a matter of trying to be more understandable with the persons we are interacting. So, in an ideal world, a cross-functional team will have only people that have a very similar set of skills, and everybody would understand each other, and there will be no necessity for a translator, like a solution architect, I would imagine, would be the translator between every single role in that particular team. But in an ideal world, that wouldn't be necessary, or we will just all understand each other very, very well. It is not necessarily the case. So, we are obviously not experts in the matter. We can say we're experts in the problem. This is why we decided to give you guys this presentation. What we would recommend you guys to take is, we work for a company which supports all kinds of workshops and all kinds of interactions with each other, like the summit, for instance, which is a great way for us to know each other better and to understand which are our strengths and weaknesses, and also leverage them, so we can make sure that delivery of a product is made much easier and the whole process is much more smoother than it would be normally. Another takeaway would be, again, those workshops, do attend them. It doesn't have to make you an expert in the new matter or an expert in a new product, but it's a way for you to understand what your colleague is doing and how to better interact. And most importantly, next time when you ask something of somebody, you know how to express yourself, and you will know that the person who receives the message will understand you much better. So, this is it from us. Thank you so much for participating.